Shalom. This week's Sedra is Sedras Bereshis. I'd like to give a little Dvar Torah to explain the Sedra and use Pirkei Avos as a basis to explain a real deep idea. In the 5th chapter of the Mishnayos of the Sefer that's known as Pirkei Avos, the following lesson is taught. By 10 divine declarations the world was created. Couldn't God have created the world with one declaration, the Mishnah asks? What does God taking 10 declarations teach us? God created the world with 10 declarations to show just how great the guilt of the wicked who destroy the world is, and how great the merit of the righteous who preserve the world is. In his commentary to this Mishnah, the Rambam explained what God's declarations were. He wrote that if we look at the story of creation, the first chapter of our Sedra, we find that the word Vayomer, meaning and God said, repeated 9 times, and the word Bereshit in the beginning is said once, making 10 divine declarations spoken by God in the process of creation. All 10 were necessary to be listed in order to show just how great each act of creation was. In his commentary to the verse in the first Aliyah of Sedras Bereshis, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, Rav Gaon explained that when God wrote that he said something, he meant that he willed it. It is difficult to understand this idea and the concept of God's will, for God doesn't desire things to occur in the same way that man does. Man has difficulty understanding anthropomorphic descriptions of God, because in trying to relate to the description of God, man tends just to circle back to the literal idea. That literal idea isn't really true, it's just something to help us understand. The God's will can be understood if it's understood as in a counterintuitive manner. Let me explain. Man's will is understood as the cause of the effect that we're studying. Taken chronologically, man wills something and then it happens. But to understand God's will, we look at it in the exact opposite manner. What was created is God's will. By examining the product, God's relationship with the world can be understood. We describe the product as God's will. According to Rav Gaon's explanation of the word Vayomer as God's will, meaning the relationship God has with the object he created, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos becomes understandable. God wrote that he declared that the world would be created in order to demonstrate to man that he has a relationship with the world. The Mishnah said that God repeated it 10 times to show just how strong that relationship is. If man acts in a destructive manner, causing all sorts of evil to exist in the world, he shows that he doesn't care about God's creations and the benefits that they provide to mankind. Making God's values our values brings great reward to mankind. And as the Mishnah teaches, the opposite, when man goes against and destroys the benefit that God's product and creation brings the opposite effect, which is great punishment. I hope that makes it clear, and we should all have a great Shabbat. Shalom.